In the last video, I talked about how we can use the mechanism of apps like TripAdvisor or Tinder. How we can use those mechanisms and those processes in doing market research. The whole idea was to develop certain apps around those mechanisms like user reviews, star ratings, and right swipe and left swipe. We can use those kind of mechanisms to evaluate our concepts, mainly product concepts or packaging, etc. So I talked about that in the last tab. In today's video, I'd like to talk about some apps and the whole thing of being tracked, which is happening all around us. I recently came across a video about China, how China basically is tracking the spending habits of its consumers, and they're basically developing a point system, to basically rate customers who are basically judiciously spending their money, they're saving or not, and on the basis of that, there will be some restrictions on the consumers. So increasingly in the global avenue, in the global market, I think there's a fear of getting trapped among the consumers. I talked about this in the previous videos also. But let's see some of the apps, how they're tracking our data and how it can help market research. And can we basically follow this kind of patterns in our industry also? The burning question is that whether it will be a breach of privacy, but then is privacy really private anymore? I think every different kind of apps anyways are tracking our behavior. So let me give example of some apps today. Let me start with transportation apps, basically the taxi and the cab apps, which has taken the world by storm. And Uber definitely is an app which is available almost all across the world. Then you have Grab Taxi, which is available across all the Southeast Asian market, including Singapore, where I'm talking from. And then you have apps like Ola, which is a taxi app for India. It's a direct competition to Uber in India. And then in China, you have Dididac. It's called DIDIDACHA, which is another taxi app, which is basically present across 300 cities in China. And so there are so many of them. I came across another taxi app, which is called Cabify. Cabify is for the LATAM market, the Latin America market, which is essentially Spain, Chile, Mexico, Colombia, and all those markets are served by Cabify. Now, it's a common knowledge today that we are linking our credit cards, debit cards, or we are creating mobile wallets to pay them. We are increasingly coming out of that hassle of paying in cash and getting the return, the change, etc. And all these companies are also encouraging us to basically pay through wallet or pay through a credit card or basically through a debit card, so that the payment is very seamless and it's just getting deducted directly from our account. Now, there are multiple points we are getting tracked by these apps. For example, we are getting tracked on how much exactly we are spending on a cab service per month. Which are the places we are visiting? Now, if you really think about a girl who is 25 to 30 years old and who is using a Grab cab in Singapore or an Uber in Singapore or a Cabify in Latin market, what is happening? She is actually inputting her journey, the starting point of her journey, her home, or anywhere else to the destination. Now, in a weekend, there'll be particular kind of behavior which will be exhibited, and there'll be particular kind of places a girl or a guy or a young guy will be accessing. For example, from home to a club, and maybe that person is going to the club twice a month, and maybe 12 times a year. Everything is actually getting fed and getting tracked in that particular taxi app. So it's not about just your card getting linked, and it's just not about your financial behavior getting basically tracked. So there's a lot of discussion around also saying that if you link your cards, credit cards, your banks and everything, your entire spending habits and behavior gets tracked. So that's a separate topic of debate and discussion. And that brings us to the point is whether anything is private or not. But let's talk about consumer behavior data. For example, if a boy or a girl is taking this Grab cab or Uber or any kind of taxi app, not to mention any specific brand, you are actually inputting your journey, starting journey, your ending journey, where you're going, everything is getting tracked. So at the end of the year, if a company, an intelligent company wants to track all this commuting data of young guys, I'm just talking young guys, I'm just giving an example of one segment. They will exactly know maybe the millennial generation of Singapore, of India, or China, or anywhere, how they are commuting, which are the hangouts they are going, which are the clubs they are visiting, which are the restaurants they are going. So it will be reflective of a lot of the hanging out behavior. So these are the common questions we ask, in focus groups or even in the other kind of market research is, what are your hangouts, where you go, where you spend your money. So through this kind of apps, we can actually make a difference, and we can actually find out, companies can find out through the taxi apps, which are the kind of hangouts being frequented by today's generation. What is a particular behavior being exhibited by today's generation. So that's one example. So one is about financial tracking, one is about tracking of consumer behavior data, hangout data, where you're going. Also, how much you're spending on a cab per month. Okay, which are the late night places you are accessing? What is your weekend behavior versus your weekday behavior in terms of commuting, and that might end up telling a lot about the consumer, a lot about a particular customer segment as a whole. It also can help us a lot in trend spotting in the kind of places they are going regularly in a city and what are they accessing. Okay, so it's a lot of data sitting out there with those kind of apps. Now, let me talk about another kind of apps, which is about music apps. Now, in India, there is an app called Gaana.com, Gaana.com, and then you have Spotify and many other apps which are across different countries. Now, I came across a section in Gaana.com. I'm sure it will be in other apps also, called Social. Now, if you access that particular section of that app, that music app, it shows that your friends, who might be your Facebook friends, and all those things, is somehow get synced. And that data basically shows that how many people are there in Gaana.com. How many Facebook friends of yours are in Gaana.com, or how many Instagram friends of yours in Gaana.com, right? So it automatically pulls the social data and shows you that which friend is listening to what kind of music. So for example, I have 7, 8 friends or 9 friends, or other people might have much, much more in the list. It's actually very easy to go in the social section and see that, okay, my ex-friend is listening to this kind of music over the week. And actually you can track the data and think about the apps manufacturer, how they are tracking. They're actually tracking the entire music listening habit, music listening behavior of a particular segment, age group, country, ethnicity. Now, for example, let's take an example of India, which is a very large country and which is very diverse in terms of tastes and preferences. So the eastern part, the western part, northern part, southern part, they have their own music. So it's very easy for a music app company now to basically profile regionally also and create content. What kind of music they're searching, what kind of trends are developing. It can even help, this apps company can help the musicians and the music companies to further develop those kind of music what people are accessing. So it's going on a different periphery, market research, and this kind of apps like a Gaana.com or a Spotify, or even the cab apps like Uber, Grab, etc. Grab, etc. They can, give a lot of insights in terms of customer behavior, customer spending, customer music listening, customer hangout. And similarly, there are many more apps like health apps. Like for example, if today health insurance company or anybody wants to track and see how much people are doing exercise, how much people basically are spending time in walking. There are apps like a health or health and heart and all those apps in iPhone and Androids, which are tracking the health data of the people. Even today, health insurance companies are actually linking the behavior on this kind of apps, the heart or the health app. They're tracking how much people are walking, and they're giving rewards to their customers. If, for example, if you're walking 1,000, what 1,000 not 1,000 kilometers, but it'll be 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers, or 1,000 minutes or whatever, like there the whole idea is about tracking the data and rewarding the customer for basically doing that much of walking per day. So those kind of product development is also happening across companies through apps by tracking the customer behavior data. So MR is going through a revolution, and it's very important that in the industry we have an open talk and we have basically discussion on how to revolutionize the way we do market research from a simple catty or from a simple pen and paper or carry. We need to really think, because everybody's in a momentum, and we will be stuck with the ways which are working now, but we need to kind of look forward and see that what kind of methods can also come in the future. We have to do some future gazing, so that we are ready to take up the challenge. Thank you very much, and I'll be up with my next video next time.